For everyone who's just joining, I'd like to welcome Pablo Heman to the Incubator. He is a prestigious crypto and TikTok creator, and he has had a meteoric rise to over 600,000 TikTok followers. And this is partially because of his prediction of Bitcoin dropping from 60K to 30K and where it is now. And I'd like to welcome to the Incubator. How's it going, Pablo?
Thank you. I'm doing well, So basically, I think I've been experiencing quite a rise before that. Basically, the call of a number of things, like I said, Tesla is going to sell some of their bitcoins, if not all. And that forecast has partially become true, and we'll see. But their next annual report is coming up in July, late July. We'll see if they've sold more of their bitcoins or not. Highly likely. The other big call was to say that Doge was actually going to somewhere near 80. You probably need to sell it just before Saturday Night Live and go back to 40. And that turned out to be pretty on the money as well. I think people are just gradually starting to discover that,
So Pablo,
so
I love your content and everything, and we're going to get into some of these picks like Tesla, or predictions rather, Tesla, Doge, Bitcoin. Can you, for everybody watching, walk us back a little bit and give us, who is Pablo and how did you get to this interview today?
Okay. Basically, I just want to say to folks on my end, I didn't actually advertise this because I didn't know what was going to happen with my life. Because last time it kind of just crashed after about 3 minutes, literally. So I had to do a live on Instagram. But I've been meaning to do an interview with Austin for a long time. So basically, it crashed twice on me essentially in the last 24 hours. So I didn't want to put out another poster saying big interview coming up with Austin, because if I did that, people will show up at
of course,
whatever time it is right now, and then be disappointed again. And then I can't ask Austin to go onto Instagram to do it with me. So that's why. So I hope if you'd like, be settled in for the next half an hour. I'm going to be talking to Austin. And to answer your question, how did Pablo come along? Basically, I was a trader at a young age. I think the thing that everyone's been referring to is basically I was a trader at the largest investment bank in the country that I live in, which is an English-speaking country. There's only about 5 or 6 of them. You can take your guess. Many of you know already. And I was 18 years old, and what happened is this. My father would encourage me. He's the type of entrepreneur. He's highly educated himself. He's a lecturer at Vanderbilt University in cardiology. So yeah, highly educated. And yet he would say to me, "Nah, you don't need to get an education. Look at all the richest people in the world." This is before Mark Zuckerberg and those guys came out. He just said, "You really don't need to go to university." That shows a lot about our education system for someone who's highly educated as him. And he says, just go out and find yourself a job. Whatever you want to do, just work in that field. That's your best education. I said, what field? I was very passionate about stocks. I was investing since I was 14, very much into Warren Buffett, George Soros, and all that. I got into this large investment bank at age 18, just in the back office, working in the mailroom. And any one of you guys can do that. You can do that. It's not hard to find a cleaner's job or whatever. And it's kind of like your typical pursuit of happiness story. I got in there, and there was no Asians in there whatsoever. I mean, this was 15 years ago. There was no Asians whatsoever, especially on the trading floor. Like it wasn't offices. If you look at the trading floor in the old days, it was just like vast open spaces, people yelling, saying, I take the bid at 250, right? And man, the cleaners weren't even Asian. So I was 18, I was in there. And simultaneously, I didn't want to give up an education.
So you're 18 and you're working in this mailroom, and in your mind you got to be like, oh, I can do what they're doing. I'm just as smart as them, right?
Well, yeah, yes. In my mind, I thought I was smarter than them, and I still think so. Because the thing is, in high school, I was the Dux, DUX of my high school. I think that's probably English system that they use, whereas in America they don't call it that. They probably call it a valedictorian or something.
Right.
Dux basically means you came first out of the entire school. I pretty much topped every subject except religion, which I went to a private Catholic school, so I was forced to study that. I failed that, and but came first in everything else, like math, physics, everything, history, economics. So basically, I thought I could beat all of these guys. I went in there. In the mailroom, and then simultaneously, I didn't want to give up on an education, so I went to study mathematics. It was a mathematics degree with a finance minor on the side. The reason why I studied mathematics whilst I want to trade in the markets is because of this. A lot of you guys are talking options, and I can't believe how I don't even talk about options because I can't believe how blasé and how casually people take options trading. People are like this talking about, oh yeah, I bought some $50 options on AMC or on Bitcoin at a strike price 50 on June 15th. I'm like, geez, do you know what's going on with the gamma and the decay and all that? Because we spent in the last year of my math degree, we spent a whole semester studying something called the Black and Scholes option pricing model. Myron Black and Fisher Black and Myron Scholes are two economists who won the Nobel Prize for coming up with this option pricing model that prices the options time decay. It's the model used to price options in a very vanilla option case. The reason why it was so difficult is that if you just look at that equation, you would freak out because it requires what they call quadratic equations, differential equations, and it's something you use to on rockets.
So, yeah, basically, I come from an engineering background myself.
Oh, there you go. So I'm just explaining for our audience's sake. And right. What happened was, that's the reason why I was studying math. I was very interested in finance. So just to wrap all this up, I went in there with, again, I came first, and I actually won the scholarship of the investment bank I was working at the university I was at. What I was doing was working during daytime and just going to nighttime classes and self-studying. So I went to the head of trading, all the trading desks. You had gold bullion trading, you had foreign exchange, you had interest rates, you had stocks. I went to all of them with my results, and I said, look, I'm a pretty smart guy. Why don't you hire me to be on your trading desk? And that was unheard of because they would never hire 18-year-old, much less someone who was Asian like me. And so basically, they just look at the results, and they thought, okay, we should give this guy a shot. So I was 18 and a half, and I was put on the trading desk after about 6 to 8 months of working in the mailroom. To put that into perspective, usually because the number one investment bank in my country. So what happens is basically people would graduate out of my degree and then go on to work for a smaller bank, and then for 3 or 4 years, and then do their master's in finance. And then the best of the best in that area, when they're about 25, 26, then get accepted to a junior role in that sort of, in the bank I was in. And I got there at 18 and a half. It took a little bit of luck, but also a lot of hard work. So that's essentially my background. I think everyone's been wondering about that. So yeah.
So you're 18 and you join the mailroom, and then within 6 months you have a job. Are people on the trading floor looking around like, who the hell is this guy?
Well, yeah, it was mainly, it was unusual to see a young kid in there. If you are a young kid in there, they assume either you're a mailroom clerk, which they were right, or you are like one of those gophers, deliver, fetch guys coffee and become an apprentice. And they've never seen an Asian kid on there before, and the word was getting around, oh, this guy's like just won the bank scholarship, and he's getting, so everyone was like, who is this kid? I'm sure if I was to go back there today now, there'd be like Asian kids, all over the place. Not just because now we have policies to make sure. I don't think they do at these sort of banks. This is not America anyway. I don't think that politically correct. But just because China is such a major market now, they'll be like, oh, well, it's our biggest import-export partner. We might as well hire a few guys who want to do business with them. Anyways, that's what it was like.
Now, okay, so you're there, you're at this bank, and you're working, you're on this trading floor. And how long did you do that? And what was kind of the catalyst for change?
What was the catalyst for change? Sorry, for which kind of change?
So you were at this bank, right? How long were you there for?
Yeah, I was there for about 4 years.
4 years now. What happened next, and what caused that next move?
Oh, what happened is this. Basically, a lot of you guys probably have been asking me, how do I get into an IB investment bank? What was like working in an investment bank? Well, basically, it's a little bit like how should I describe it? It's kind of a little bit like say the NBA where the major leagues. You get in there, and basically it's not actually quite what you expected, because it wasn't a hedge fund. You'd have to go into a hedge fund to be trading, like prop trading all the time. Where I was a lot more deal flow than prop trading, although there was some prop trading going on. And it was just after a couple of big collapses, like we had the .com crash and all that, and so
Hmm.
banking regulation was tightening down on wild prop trading. So it wasn't the kind of exciting trading I wanted. And I had, look, to be honest, I think I was young and I had put myself under way too much pressure. I was basically, imagine doing investment banking from 6 to 6 p.m., like a 12-hour day, and then go to university from 6 to 9 p.m. And still I was getting I was still topping all the,
Hmm.
not just my degree, but all of the math degrees. So I got the scholarship because I came first in all the math and engineering, all the technical degrees. It was across the board. So it was an incredible amount of pressure. And I basically, and on the weekend, you got to keep up the you got to have a life as well.
Of
So on the
course.
Friday and Saturdays, I was drinking a lot, going out to parties, trying to pick up chicks,
What on
and
that? What
so
is when Pablo? What's the drink of choice? And what's your go-to move when you're trying to go talk to a girl at the bar?
basically it was it was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
So I think my drink of choice has improved, but it was basically like Jack and Coke, Jack Daniels and Coke, and basically like you load up on that and just I don't know, like a lot of times back then it was I don't think I had any moves back then, so it was basically just go up and say hello, say whatever. Um, yeah, it was unlike trading, was totally unplanned,
Yeah.
without strategy, and it's just like yeah, see
You,
whatever happens.
you'd
Yeah,
rather, you think the markets are more predictable than whatever the girl's going to say back to you.
yeah, but well, in both cases, if you study it, um, uh, if you study female psychology, especially revolutionary psychology, you get to understand them a lot more, and you can see why they do the things they do. It's like the markets; you can predict it in the medium to especially long term, but obviously very difficult on the short term because there are so many factors that are influencing them on the short term. For guys, it's a lot more simpler. It's on the short term. It's There's only one or two factors driving your decision making. For women, there's many things on the short term. Medium term, it's long term. It's probably easier. Yeah.
So going back, to the markets, although maybe we can make the comparison, to the markets and picking up some girls at the bar. But so going back to the markets, and you were at your the banking position for 4 years. You started at 18, and you said you were there for about 4 years. So when you were 22, what was the next move?
Oh, okay. Basically, then I really thought, um, nobody expected me to be in that position, and I got into that position, and I felt like I could do anything. So basically, I thought, I can take a break from this. I was burnt out. I can take a break this for about like a year or so, and I can come back anytime I want. Basically, I thought I was way smarter than most of these guys, and more qualified, so to speak. I'd been my real age in the markets was like 8. A lot of these people studied finance and they didn't get into trading until they were on the job, and they were asking basic questions like, "Oh, how do I open up a stockbroker's account? How much deposit do I need?" All of that. Whereas I've been trading since I was 14. Again, thanks to my dad. He was
Hmm.
one of those guys who made a little bit of money from real estate, and he was just like, "Here, go lose some money." He literally said, "Go lose some money." Like he'd give me like $2,000, and he said, go lose that and learn a fucking lesson on how not to lose money in the market. And I got lucky. First investment I ever made, first stock I ever bought was called Hardman Resources. It was a mining company that was striking oil and went up like 50-fold. And I thought I was a genius. And then bought another one, a cleaning products company, and lost half of it.
Of course.
You learn many lessons back then, and you should be learning those lessons, losing like just $1,000 here and there. Okay, so basically I jumped out of there and I said, what would I ideally like to do if I could do anything in the world? And of course, I got into filmmaking, and and people know this. People know this. I'm actually in a big um, superhero movie coming out, and you'll be able to see it in a few months. And I will advertise and I'll put it up all over my videos, letting you guys know coming up. So how does that relate to investing and trading? Is that not so much to trading, but to investing, is that once I got out and I was pursuing my passion, it's kind of like a lot of you guys saying, I would like to retire when I'm 25, or I would like to retire when I'm 35. And we're like, wow, that guy's retired at 30. That is so dumb to me. To
Hmm.
me, that is such a dumb thing to say. What I would like to say is, you've only solved the first half, the first quarter of your problem, which is being financially independent. My follow up question is, and it always comes, is, yeah, so you're retired at 30, you're a genius. What would you like to do next?
And that's
And they're
that's
probably
the
like,
hard question.
yeah. And someone like me will probably be like, oh, I'd probably like to go back to trading at 30 now that I'm financially independent, but trade the way I want. And which
Hmm.
is kind of like, oh, yeah, so you're still trading. Other people, they're like, I've seen investment bankers retire and they were like, I want to, some went into raising ponies, like thoroughbreds to raise horses. Some
Hmm.
got into curating art galleries and stuff like that. So basically, it's kind of like, what are you actually passionate about? You don't make Very few people make money for the sake of making money. Like Warren
Hmm.
Buffett, he does that because he says, my what do you call it in NBA terms? My free throw
3-pointer.
all time record. Yeah,
Or
3-pointer all time record, and no one's going to beat me, and I'm just trying to run up that record. Guys like Bill Gates are like, yep, I don't need to worry about money anymore. What am I passionate about? Okay, I'm going to change the world through charity, through philanthropy.
mhm.
So my thing was, okay, what am I really passionate
So
about other than
to
trading and investing?
so it was, you have this 25%, which was getting that financial freedom and maybe being able to retire at a young age. And now the next step is finding what you're passionate about. And that was what you were looking
Yeah.
for. So what was the answer to the rest of it? What you truly are passionate about?
Okay. So basically, look, in for me to get I'm still passionate about the markets. It's so exciting. But I found that if I had to choose between two competing passions, I'd rather be making movies. Like you guys have seen in some of my videos, I've worked on movies both in front and behind the screen, and it's amazing to like every kid growing up watches Pirates of the Caribbean or Star Wars or Indiana Jones, and you imagine yourself there, right? And so basically it's been like when I show people that just for a few seconds in my videos, even though
Mhm.
it's about trading and crypto, people come back to me and people say, "Wow, this guy has lived 100 lives." And I don't feel it when I'm making those movies, but now I look back and I look at those videos and I say, "I can't believe that was me. I've been incredibly lucky, and I'm very grateful." However, what I want to emphasize is this: I did not become financially independent at 22 or whatever the age is. Um, it is an ongoing process. What I
Mhm.
wanted to say to all you guys is that you shouldn't start thinking about what you're really passionate about once you become financially independent at 40. You're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be like an MBA, try out for the MBA now because I'm financially independent at 40. No, you maybe want to develop that as you go along. And one way for me was to make sure, look, my father really been an old Asian guy who's like a professor. He's really disagreed with that. He said to me the same thing that Bitcoiners would say to me now, which is have fun staying poor, right? And of course, it's a really
That's what
big
your dad
thing.
your dad said that to you?
Yes, something similar to that. You're gonna regret it and have fun staying poor.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like
I would have loved
I
to have
never
been a
imagined
fly on
myself.
the wall for that conversation.
I never imagined myself being poor because I'm like, hey, how does someone like me become poor? Like anytime if I just decided to go back to a bank or any job, I don't care what the job is, like medicine or law, like give me a year or two, I believe I'd be near the top of that profession. That's how I see myself. So I
Hmm.
was like, I don't see that happening. And the thing is, the investment part that has kept me going because along the way it's been extremely difficult, like for Asians to get into film, to get into like it's taken me this many years to be in a bloody superhero movie, to have like a
Could
decent, not huge but decent speaking part in a huge superhero
so
movie, like a big one coming out.
you have a huge superhero movie coming out. Can we get the title of it?
I'm contractually obligated not to say anything, but
Ah,
I
come
will do.
on.
But look. I'm going to tell all you guys when it is coming out, like literally within days of release. I'm going to be. It's going to be soon, and I'm going to be. I'll be telling you guys. Right now, like how many superheroes movies are coming out in the next few months? It's easy. It's not that difficult to to
Mhm.
to guess if you had to, you know. So the point is basically the problem with choosing a career of passion is often it doesn't work out for you, and people give up straight away. Um, it's kind of like got to have diamond hands, and that may not be the right thing for you if you're not truly passionate about it. And so what happens is basically a lot of folks they see their friends at the investment banks, they see their friends who got into the law degree, who became a doctor, or their high school friends who got opened their own coffee shop or became a mechanic, just make money, save money, and then invest in a property, and then have kids. They're like, oh, I'm missing out because I'm this starving artist, because they're having property now, they're having their first investment property as on top of their home now. They can afford to have a child or two or whatever, and you miss out on all that, and you start thinking maybe this is the wrong path. what actually kept me going alive was I obviously had a lot of pressure because all the guys around me were doing really well because, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing really well when I was at uni. And of course, I had smart people around me. All the people around me went into investment banking. They were all doing really well. My investing and being wise and smart about it has kept me going because I see my wealth increasing as well. And I'm like, hey, I'm actually not missing out all that much. Maybe compared to the investment bankers around me,
Mm-hmm.
those guys are getting paid like paid $1 million a year by
Right.
the time they were in their 20s.
So back.
Not maybe not compared to those guys,
So
but compared to my high school friends who
right.
are just working in average jobs, like
Mm-hmm.
some of them are plumbers, some of them are truck drivers. Compared to them, I'm like, yeah, I'm not missing out on anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like my stock portfolio, my properties are performing better than they are, and I don't have to feel like I'm falling behind or anything. That has kept me going and saying, whilst I'm not worried about that, and I'm not financially independent enough to just retire,
Right.
I'm still pursuing my passion, and that's what keeps you going in a way.
So that is so back to kind of your a lot of people, they come in and they say, oh, I want to do this, but they don't have diamond hands on their true passion. So the second there's kind of a road bump in the way, you know, they sell it, metaphorically speaking. But the key for you at least has been having this diamond hands on this acting passion, and then we're seeing it come into fruition kind of in the near future.
Well, it's not just in front of the screen. Basically, I've written stuff behind. I've written screenplays and have won awards for the screenplays, and it's been hugely rewarding as well. Because what happens is sometimes it's so limiting. Like if you're just acting, basically, I found that. Do you realize how narrow the roles are if you're just an Asian male? Like imagine like you get to play a gangster. In old good old days, 10 years ago, your choice of roles: the gangster or the fobby Asian dude who speak with that bad accent like this, right? Or the comic foil. Like those are about the three choices you have, right? Now we're seeing Asian guys getting lead roles in superhero movies, in Marvel movies,
Mm-hmm.
and that's only happening. It's yet to happen. It's in a movie that's coming out in a few months. That hasn't even happened yet. It's still in future tense.
Improv, yeah.
But certainly the world is slowly changing that direction. So if I found that if I was just waiting for those roles, it would be like it'd be so limiting. And so the creative part of me says, hey, you did well in English and history and all those humanity subjects. You can write a fucking again. I thought you can write a screenplay better than these guys that are on TV, whatever. And I did. And some things got made, most of them didn't, because that's just the nature of the game. Unless you're Oscar-winning level screenwriter, even for them, a lot of their scripts don't get made. But it's been hugely rewarding because for me, that's your passion. Sometimes you don't make a lot of money from that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like guys who do sculpting or painting. That painting may not have sold for much money, but you're like, hey,
Right.
that's
So
my creative expression.
you've seen your body of work and you've been kind of consistent on this, your screenplay and your writing and kind of your acting. Now, how did you get into the crypto game?
Basically, okay, I was in China making movies, and this guy is one of the few Bitcoin multimillionaires. This guy's probably worth like $20 million right now on Bitcoin. Well, maybe not right now. Maybe he's back down to about 6 million, $3 million on Bitcoin. And I met him in China. This is actually, see, this is how you become a Bitcoin whale. True story.
So we're
I don't believe the story of people.
the
I
story
don't
of a
believe the story
Bitcoin
of people
whale,
going,
people. I'm
yeah,
all ears.
I don't believe the people who are like buy with diamond hands and hold and you become a Bitcoin whale. Maybe not, because most of those people got in the game late. They got in the game like 2017, 2018. They bought around 3,000. Even now, you've only 10x or 12x your money. And you tell me a stock that you couldn't 10x or 12x since 2017. Plenty of them have. Plenty of them have. This guy, what happened was this: he was an actor. He was a white dude, but working as an actor in China, because a lot of there are not a lot of white dudes who go to China to join the film industry, and so he made some money, like $50,000 for every film role he played, and he was trying to transfer that money out of China. Early days, obviously, we know about the currency exchange controls in China, so he couldn't transfer that money out. This was 2015, 2014 or something like that. And he was like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this Bitcoin thing. It sounds like a scam, but I'm just going to put a little bit of money in it. I'm going to quickly transfer it back into Australian dollars or wherever he was. So he basically bought some Bitcoin, transferred like $1,000 over. he didn't lose anything, and he actually made a little bit because it was during the, he didn't even know what a bull market was. It was during a crazy bull market. He actually made $200 off that. An hour later, he was like, okay, now I'm going to transfer all of my money, $30,000 over. And he did that once. He was like, oh, yes, didn't get scammed. Yes, it's my bank account now. So every time he had an acting job, he would transfer that money out of China into Bitcoins into his Australian bank account. And he did that a few times. He felt complacent. So he felt like each time it would actually go up a little bit, like he would actually make $200 or $300. And he was like, oh, this didn't seem like so much of a scam after all. So on the last time he made the transfer, it was something like $30,000 or whatever it is. He forgot to transfer it back into Australian dollars because the bank had closed or he had to go to a party, whatever. So he woke up the next morning and because it's been working for him. I think it was 2 days later, he looked at it and had doubled or something. He was like, this thing's for real. So he started believing in Bitcoin. So what he did was this. He says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell the portion of my Bitcoins so that I could I get my payment, my acting payment back. And the other portion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it in Bitcoin by pure profit in Bitcoin, which was still like $30,000 in 2014. He says, if I lose everything, if it's a total scam, I'm not going to regret it because I've already made a few $100s out of Bitcoin. This is just pure profit. See what happens. Then he started reading into it. So he basically was like, he started believing in the whole revolution of the financial system and all that. By the time I met him on a Netflix series we were shooting together, it's called Chosen, by the way. If you guys want to see it, it's on Netflix. It's the Mandarin version. It's a remake of the American series called Chosen, produced by Sony Pictures.
I'm ready to watch it. That's going on right after this interview. I'm watching Chosen. It's called Chosen. Pablo.
He's actually the lead. He's actually the male lead in there, the Caucasian guy. I mean, there's an Asian lead and a Caucasian lead. He's actually the Caucasian lead. I play a key role in there. So, but I'm not going to spoil the plot for you. So, he actually legitimately, but even back in 2017, when Bitcoin prices hit 20,000, he was like worth like $2 to $3 million. And he's like, I don't care because it does this every day. And he's right, because went straight from 20,000 back down to 3,000. So he was like, he's got like 4 kids. He's never going to sell his Bitcoins. He's always going to hodl. So those guys are the true Bitcoin whales.
So he could chalk it up to going out one night at a party and forgetting about his Bitcoin. That's how this whale was formed.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. That's the the best investment in a tequila soda you could ever do.
Because here's the thing, Austin. Like, so many stories I've heard about people who, there are 2 types of Bitcoin holders. Either you got in like sometime in the last year or 2 and you made like 5x or 3x or whatever it is, but it ain't enough to make you a whale.
No.
Or the guys who got in really early, like 2010, 2011, and they always have a story of, I sold it for a pizza. I know an Australian guy who sold it to buy a Lamborghini, to buy a Lambo. It's you always, once at 100x's with anything, you're like, if I don't get out now, I'm gonna be the biggest fucking fool of all time.
Yeah.
Now we know, of course, Bitcoin's gone up like 100,000x, and anyone who sold along the way was a fool. But however, like along the way, like look, I got out of Doge after like a 7x or an 8x. And in 10 years' time, when we look back, I might look like a fool.
Right.
And people are like, why did you sell? I was like, oh, I see a crash coming. And I correctly predicted the crash. So I got out after 8x. But in the long term, holding on to one of these does make sense, especially when we see so much inflation coming.
Right. So let's get into that. So now some of your predictions, can you give us some insight into how you create these extreme or these predictions? So how do you come across, or how do you get your investment thesis for your prediction of the Doge crash and the Bitcoin crash?
Okay, so basically, I'll just show you guys on the chart, and I showed it plenty of times, because the problem is this, right? With TikTok, they only give you 59 seconds, so I could just point to a chart and just go, yeah, this is why I think it's going to 30. Everyone's talking about that move to 30. It's actually not that impressive at all if you think about it. I'm just the one guy who's brave enough to call it as it is. So you can trust me for what you call it, for honesty. It's a lot of big whales are out there, and they all knew this was happening. It was pretty obvious. Basically what had happened was there was a head and shoulder pattern forming on the Bitcoin chart, and basically let's see. And I spoke about this many times, and you could just see it. So basically, like, That's a massive Head and Shoulders. That it took 3 months to form and had already broke, and then got down to about 40, right? And we could all see there was a massive support level. Everyone agreed there was a support level at 42 because that was at 42. So there was, and then it broke that as well. Went down to 41.8. That's when I made that video that it's had like what 1 million views now, and I said I think this is going down to 30. Why is it going down to 30? It's basically it's textbook. Basically, you measure the height between the neck and the height of the head. You know, that's about a 12,000 point move. And then you project that from the neckline down 12,000 exactly down to 30. You know, like things like that. I should have done that with Doge. If I was to apply that to Doge when it run up to Saturday Night Live, it actually hit the mark almost exactly. The projection, I said 80 to 90. I would anywhere close to that, I would sell. And later on, people were complaining like, "Oh, you didn't get it exactly right." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Go. Good luck. Go follow someone else who gets it exactly right." You know what I mean?
On the Head and Shoulders move, just going back to that now, a lot of
Yeah.
technical analysis I see, right? So you see a Head and Shoulders pattern there. A lot of the
Yeah.
technical analysis that I'll see, they'll do a different prediction, or they'll show this chart and they'll show
Yeah.
a different formation, or a whatever the names are. What is kind
Yeah.
of your thoughts on that, on seeing different patterns forming and how you can discern through which one's going to happen and which one isn't going to happen?
Okay. So basically, this it's some people call this a Wyckoff distribution. I've never used I think that's just personally I thought it was amateurish. It just goes to show how young the traders are in Bitcoin, because Wyckoff, even they say themselves, even if you go, I might have heard of it. I think in my early 20s when I was first into the game, and I've never looked at Wyckoff again, because when people, yes, it looks like the chart Wyckoff drew, but his son, who's now head of the Wyckoff institution, says that's not a pattern. We're just saying in general this is what happened. This is not, you're not meant to fit that onto a graph and say this is exactly every movement up and down. It's just like a general sort of graph. It's just saying that's what they do with the distribution. And I would look at that and I would say, yeah, we call that a Head and Shoulders pattern. Like, you know, and Wyckoff isn't tradable. You can't use that and say when it breaks through the neckline, it's going to go down projected by the height of whatever. That's the projection price. It gets triggered once it breaks through the neckline. You can't do that with a Wyckoff distribution. But here, with Head and Shoulders, you can. So here's the thing: like some patterns, you basically have higher confidence than others. Like, so for example, like one thing that helps is with the volume. Like basically, you have what we have here. So for example, is this this flag, this wedge that's forming. Usually that's what we call a continuation pattern. So basically, everyone's been talking about that. We had a breakdown on the downside. We had a breakout on the downside. So basically, we were expecting that to go much lower to 25. And then, of course, we said there would be a huge rejection at 30. It came earlier, 31,000. And then do you say, well, it's bouncing back now, testing the upper whatchamacallit, the resistance line. That line should hold. Because it's taken like 18 days to form before it breaks out. So right now, or at least it should provide significant resistance, because the reason why it isn't actually just a chart on a line. But what's happening is people forget the real psychology behind it. People see this massive drop, and people see a lot of negative news and what Bitcoiners like to call FUD, FUD in the market, and it's actually just basically some of it. What do they mean by FUD? Is people who deliberately generate negative news to scare you out of your position, but sometimes it's not deliberate negative news, like China banning Bitcoin. That's not the Chinese government generating flood. That's just their monetary policy. They don't want anything to challenge the digital RMB. You can call that FUD if you want, but that's just what's happening.
On that specifically, could you call just how certain news and media outlets, display or kind of outline this news, and how maybe someone like CNBC or NBC, how they kind of describe this news of China banning Bitcoin?
Sorry, how do you mean by CNBC saying?
So, because they're running the article, right?
Yeah.
So the news of China banning Bitcoin, may not necessarily be the FUD because it's the truth of the matter or whatever it may be, however that's spun. I think the media outlets and how they write the articles and how they're describing the ramifications of this, that could be considered FUD there, right?
However, they are writing this article. It is true that China is clamping down on cryptocurrency. To me, that's not FUD at all. What could be described as FUD is basically someone basically going on the internet and saying something like Bitcoin going to zero, like
Right.
someone saying for no reason. Like, for example, if they really did their research and if they really believe it, then that's fine. If someone's just going out there saying Bitcoin's going to zero, or let's say if someone shorted Tesla, let's say if someone, the more typical case is Tesla. If big institutions, they are shorting Tesla, and Michael Berry's shorting Tesla, and if they want to go on there and spread really negative news, undeserved news about Tesla, that's, you can probably call that FUD. Mm-hmm. Although there's always a grain of truth in it, because they're doing that not through the internet, not through like YouTube accounts. They're doing that through finance Yahoo. They're doing that through legitimate websites like CNBC. So if they're doing that, basically they are saying that this is basically those websites, if they're helping to spread the FUD, they still have to be factually correct. So they might be emphasizing the negative part of what's happening to Tesla and overlooking the positive part, but what they're telling is still actually true. You should still actually look at a piece of news item and say, yep, they're only saying the negative part. This is the unbalanced reporting. I know what the positive part is about Tesla. I've done my research, so that's up to you. So what happens is the real FUD is what happens on the internet. Basically, you have YouTube accounts and TikTok accounts. Maybe they're paid, maybe for whatever reason they've come out, they've shorted Tesla, and they come out, oh, Tesla's going to crash because of this, Bitcoin's going to zero, that sort of thing. If they're not explaining the reason behind that, you could maybe call that FUD. But China banning the digital yuan, however way you spin it, is happening. So sorry, China wanting to prop up the digital yuan by banning Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, that has already happened. However you want to spin that, that's actually factually true. So basically, the point I was getting to before was once
we went on
all
that
FUD
negative
news,
I hate FUD
as
much as anybody.
Well, if you want to call it negative news, was coming through, and Bitcoin was moving in this wedge. Basically, what happened is well, you see that is this a continuation pattern? And looks very much like a continuation pattern to me, because you had all these huge red bars that are a lot higher. The green bars are a lot lower. Basically, it looks like Bitcoin's very comfortable in this zone and it should break down low, which we did see. However, what surprised me is basically that in the last 2 days, we've had that massive red bar, which is actually kind of green, as I've been saying all along, because it only went red a little bit. It actually made a major push up here, and another green bar here. Now, if we were to look at that on a longer term scale, it's actually not huge, but it would end the bear run in the short term. So basically, if we were to look at it in terms of a longer time span, basically that isn't all that significant, right, compared to all these other days. What it does signal is that there are some bulls coming back in to basically prop up the price. And the thing is, like a lot of the comments asking, someone just said we wouldn't go below 30. We may not go below 30 this week, but my prediction essentially, or forecast essentially, hasn't changed. The problem is with people asking me on a daily basis. On a daily basis, do you think it's going below 30? I won't be able to tell you what's going to happen today. Like I've said at the start of this interview, I won't be able to help you understand, it's going to go below 30 today or not. But the overwhelming odds are that it'll go below 30. It might even be a quick rebound from 28. That's the most optimistic scenario. It could be to go to 28, a sharp spike back up. It could go to 23 and a sharp spike back up. It could stay in the 20s and go sideways. Basically, the overwhelming odds are that it's going below 20, going below 30. It's hard to tell, obviously, what's going to happen on the day-to-day.
So right now, your short to medium term prediction is Bitcoin below 30K.
Yeah. So it's like saying, yep, it could go to 40, 41, 42 tomorrow. But it's what we call dead cat bounce. Basically, I knew I drew a graph like the day after it crashed, right? The day after it crashed, I drew a graph and I said, it's going to have a dead cat bounce, 43 to 45K. It's out there. It has had 1.3 million views. And I said, and then it's going down to the 20s, right? we've had one bounce to 42K, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean it's going to go down to 20 after that. People misunderstand me. And then we had another bounce to 41K. It doesn't mean it's going to go to 20 after that. Basically, I'm saying, I said very clearly at the end of that video, I said, this should happen. I think I definitely remember saying this should happen over the next 2 months. And I didn't, and I
Could you
remember
explain,
saying before that.
for everyone listening, you had mentioned it just a couple of times. Could you explain what a dead cat bounce is?
Oh yeah, dead cat bounce is a cruel expression. Imagine a cat falls off a tall building, and the cat lands with a thud, and it bounces a little bit before it goes down again. So what I've been basically saying is, because people don't understand, you're right. Actually, a lot of people are so young to trading. They haven't. A lot of people coming to crypto now haven't even had stock trading experience. So basically, people don't even know what a dead cat bounce is. I've been interviewed by major reporters, financial reporters, from major publications, and they have to ask me because they didn't have a finance background. They had more of a journalistic, international affairs background. So when people miss the point when I say it's a dead cat bounce to 43 to 45K, that's exactly what I said. And people take it too seriously, and they say, oh, it didn't go to 45K. Yeah, but it's a dead cat bounce to 42K. That's pretty fucking good, right? When it was at like 30 something, I said it's going to be a dead cat bounce to 45K. It did that to 42K. Right? Essentially, yes, it's a dead cat bounce, and then I did another dead cat bounce. That's the whole point of basically the forecasting the market.
On the dead cat bounce, so I guess it's a time of a sharp decrease, right? And then it's an immediate increase or whatever the timing is, and then followed by a continued loss in price, as if the cat is dying, bouncing, and then continuing to fall. Mike, at what point?
So basically, after a major crash like this, anytime it does 41, 42, even up to 48, right? It can hang up there for like 3 or 4 days and come back down, or it can go immediately spike up and it gets sold the next day. Whatever that is, it's called a dead cat bounce. The reason why people, again, you have a lot of dumb people out there saying, I don't know if they're intentionally saying this or they're just super dumb. They say stuff like, he predicted it both ways, up or down. Yeah, I never said it's going to go to 55 or 60 or 85, right? I said dead cat bounce. That can happen once or twice. I don't have like half an hour like I'm speaking to you now.
Of course.
I have 59 seconds. That's what I have, right?
That's the problem with
TikTok. Now they give you 3. Now they give you 3 minutes, and if I do a 3-minute video, you only have 100,000 views, and
exactly,
and people don't watch it, right? So that's condensed. Essentially, TikTok's saying, its algorithm saying to you, get it done in 40 seconds. 30 seconds even better. You have $1 million, million people view. Essentially,
nobody wants to watch it for 3 minutes.
My view is abundantly clear, and it has not changed. We're going to have dead cat bounce 1 or 2 to about 43 to 45. It can even get higher to like 40, 48. Why? Because that's the neckline. That's where it broke down. It'll get to even up to 48, right? I'm still saying that's a dead cat bounce. If you want to trade the short term, I'm not here to help you make day-to-day predictions. Where's Bitcoin going to be in next day or 2 days? I don't care. I don't trade those short term. If you care about that, and you want to find someone who can predict that, go follow them.
Right.
Good luck to you. Go follow them and you trade those short-term moves. Become a futures intraday trader. Good luck to you, right?
Yeah.
See where you are in 3 years' time, right?
Yeah.
Probably be back.
Good luck with that.
If it doesn't move to there, I'm not buying. In fact, I might be. The closer it gets to that neckline, the more I will be shorting. That's what a dead cat bounce is, because you do not believe this move is real and it's actually going to break through and go up all the way up, resume the run to 50, 60, 70, 80. I said it's a dead cat bounce, whatever it is, up to 43, 45. We've had a bounce to 42. This move, I don't think it'll get there. It'll get stopped by this trend line here. Although judging by the volume, it actually surprised me. So we could actually see a bounce to 43, 45, maybe even 48. But as I said, it's a dead cat bounce. I'm not here to predict what it's going to do tomorrow, what it's going to do the day after, right? If I can get a major crash from 42 down to 30, right, that's all I need. I got out there. I went short there. I protected my losses. I protected my portfolio, and I bought all those Bitcoin downs and Ethereum downs, and I showed everybody on live, and I showed everybody on the videos. You could all see it on my screenshot. Made like 6x profit on the way down because of the massive crash. That's the kind of horizon I'm in. I'm proud of that. I'm very happy with that, and that's why my follower accounts went from like 250,000 to 600,000, and then people started expecting you to be able to make those predictions on a daily, hourly basis. Right. Where's it going to go? Whatever, unfollow somebody else. Good luck to you, right?
Good
So
luck with. So you see this right now. So for
yeah,
everyone
find someone
watching,
who can do that.
we're seeing
Sorry, what's that?
we're seeing a sideways consolidation there, right? And we've seen this drop, and we're seeing the point of resistance at the top and the bottom, and it's moving in sideways. You think it's going to
Yeah.
break that lower resistance and then form? Where do you think the new formed resistance will be below that lower bound?
Well, you mean below 30?
Below that lower resistant line, right?
Oh,
That's what
this
the
one?
yellow line is. The bottom
Well,
yellow line.
yeah, well, so far we've had bounces a number of times at 30, 31, and that one's a 31. So 30 to 31, the bulls are defending that quite
Mm-hmm.
vigorously. The only time I would change my opinion, I mean, I haven't said anything different. I haven't said, oh, we're now in a bull market, and this is going to be a bull market from now on. I've always said dead cat bounce, then we're going to visit the 20s, and then we're still in a bull market. So essentially, I don't think anybody out there in the TikTok space or wherever online is saying that. People are of two camps. Either people think we're in a bull market because we're going to get stopped at 30. That was the all-time low. Now we're building a base and we're going to go back to 65, 85. Or they're saying we're in a bear market and look, this is going to go down to 20, 14, 18, and then it's going to actually go sideways, like make the crypto winter, make a long bottom for 15 months, 18 months until the halving cycle. We get to the halving cycle of the Bitcoin again and it starts running up again. I'm the only one out there saying basically, I think it's basically a drop. We're still in a bull market, but it's a drop to the 20s. Very likely a drop to the 20s. It's not 100%, but I would say the word very likely a drop to the 20s. I'd be very surprised if we don't. And then basically probably a V-shaped recovery or reasonably V-shaped recovery. And then we can see higher prices like 50, 60, 70, 80 by the end of the year.
So you think we're still in a bull market. However, you think right now we're in our near future we'll see something in the 20-25K range?
Yes. For a number of reasons, because the thing is, it's much easier because like you see from the comments, nobody's asking me, like if you look at the comments, nobody's asking me, where do you think Bitcoin will be in 3 months time? Where do you think Bitcoin will be in at the end of the year? Everybody wants to be a day trader, right? Even I'm not day trading, right? Because I think it requires more discipline than actually timing the market. It's actually just more about, it's probably 60, 70% money management, risk management skills rather than day trading.
So
where do
you think Bitcoin's going to be a year from now?
A year from now. A year from now.
A year from now.
A year from now, gee, most likely scenario is
3 months. 3 months. Where do you think it'll be 3 months from now?
Yeah, the thing I want to point out is this. Basically, people don't look at the longer term scale. I doubt anybody asking me those questions have ever pulled up a weekly or a monthly chart of Bitcoin, because everybody's concentrating on what's going to do tomorrow. Who cares what's going to do tomorrow? It's been going sideways, up and down, up and down. If you want to be a day trader, you don't need to know where it's going to go, in next week. You don't need to hear about what my forecast is. You basically just map out your resistance and map out your support and just buy on support, sell on resistance, and they do that all day, right? So basically, the thing is, if you look at this chart, and if you look at that red bar volume, that's the largest sell-off in Bitcoin history. Some idiot got on there and says, oh, that's not. One of the TikToker influencers, someone with like 8,000 followers, a bit of a clown, I would say, basically said, no, it's not.
He didn't have a red beanie on, did he? Or a pink beanie?
No. Because the percentage sell-wise, the percentage sell-off isn't actually all that much. No, I didn't say the percentage sell-off. I said it's the largest Bitcoin sell-off in history per dollar amount. So if you look at the volume traded, that was like $50 billion or whatever wiped off in selling volume, wiped off the market. We have something like that, and you break the head and shoulders pattern. You do not just make a V-shaped bottom here and just turn up, right? So it is possible in like a minor case scenario, but look what it's done. Does that look like a V-shaped recovery to you on the weekly chart? It's basically had solid green volume, but as I've always been saying that's actually not really green bar. Like it's that wick is that long. It means the bulls got pushed all the way back to almost into red territory. So that volume is mainly selling. This one, again, the wick isn't as long, but again got pushed back. Now this is today's Tuesday, Wednesday. So this is going to be a significant week because we're having strong volume come through, and we've had significant wick to the bottom. So shows the bulls are willing to defend 30 and push it up. Like if this is to come up to at the end of the week to be a solid green, like somewhere around here, and the prices end up somewhere around here, then yes, it looks like the bearish case is then I would be more willing to say we're not in a bear market, which is what I've said all along. But I'd be more confident of that. But however, it's still likely to be a dead cat bounce, because what always happens is when you break down from these, it's just simple textbook technical analysis. When you break through from this pattern, right? Sometimes you go straight down, but sometimes you go back and test the neckline, and this yellow line will become the new resistance and push it back down. So on a weekly perspective, it's kind of like, how do you break this chart? Not just by doing a V-shaped recovery. And even if it is V-shaped recovery, it certainly doesn't look like this, where you spent 2 weeks selling, right? And then yet this week we've got another 4 days to go, 5 days to go. We don't know what's going to happen yet. Look, all I'm saying is, looking at the weekly chart, dead cat bounce if we do go above 40, 42, and then back down and most likely test the 20s again. That's something you have much more probability of forecasting right than saying what's going to do in the next 24 hours.
Of course. Now,
I don't care. If you want to trade that, go find someone else.
Yeah, on that. So now, what level do you think, okay, it's no longer in a dead cat bounce, we're actually now not going to see that, it's in a bull market now? At what point is it no longer that?
Okay, it's not at what point. Now, technical analysis, guys who trade stocks would basically say, I'm going to look at the charts. I'm going to look at the charts and decide. So they say something like, which I think is pretty silly, but if a quarter of the market believes in technical analysis, then it's a signal to them. It's something to consider. They would say something silly like, if it gets above that yellow line, if it goes up, spikes up for 1 day and then closes below it, doesn't really hold, then basically we're back in a bull market. Then basically means we're still not in a bull market. But if it's very comfortable around there, we see nice volume traded around there, and it holds for 3 or 4 days around that yellow line, and then we're back in a bull market. And which I think the signal would be rather late, but that's how technical and analysts would look at it. It's basically telling you, oh, once it gets back to 50, then we're in a bull market. The smart money would have been buying down here if that was the bottom. So like if you believe in the long-term future of Bitcoin, you want a dollar cost average, then like around the low 30 area, 31 would probably be in a good area to buy. But what I look for is remember, like technical analysis with stocks doesn't really actually work as well as with crypto. There are some key differences. For example, with crypto, you can look at the whales. You can see if the whales are buying or not. Like
Chain
basically,
analytics.
all this time we spent down here bouncing around in the 20s, in the low 30s. Basically, I haven't seen the whales coming on the blockchain day.
How do you know when whales are trading?
Well, you can see those big whale wallets, the ones that sold. You could see that some whale wallets sold like when it was like
bulk purchases.
Okay, when whales are selling, basically, okay, whales have been selling since Tesla announced they're buying. They started selling from here. Whale wallets basically started selling all the way onto here, right? And then it stopped around here. So they're neither selling or buying. Like a tiny little bit of whales are buying here, but it's not enough to make turn the trend around. So basically,
how do you tell when it's like discern from Mac and Cheesy buying Bitcoin versus a whale buying Bitcoin? Is it sheerly on purchase order or size?
You will see it. You will see it on the blockchain. Basically, like I mean, you can see there are, if you search the blockchain, there are like guys with wallets that are
the whale watching.
Literally, a whale is defined as anybody with a wallet of 1,000 to 5,000 bitcoins. Above 5,000 is known as humpback. If you look at the humpbacks, anyone with more than 5,000 bitcoins, a lot of them have been selling starting from around here, right? Sold more and more and more around here, and they stopped around here. So they're waiting to get in, but they haven't started buying yet. Maybe I would guess those guys would have buy orders lined up in the 20s. That's why I think we have a bull market once we hit the 20s. Once we have spiked down to the 20s, if it goes to the 20s and we see that well support, we see on chain, you can see it.
Chain analytics.
On chain reaction, boom, they come in, and then you're like, this is likely to be a bottom. And so much buying by the whales. By then, it would scare the pens out of most of the people watching your and interview and my live right now, most of the retailers, guys, who are on here asking me questions, it will scare the pants out of them because most of them bought in the 40s and 50s. Once it goes 20, a lot of FUD or real news will come out and say Bitcoin going to zero, Bitcoin projected to go to 14,000. We're going to a crypto winter. That's the exact time when the retailers will be selling at a huge loss, 50,
And then the
60%
whales.
loss, but the whales will come in and just buy it in the 20s.
So
That's how I'm seeing the picture right now. Of
right.
course, that's my best case. That's my best guesstimate. If the whales prove to be buying here, if say yesterday we had this last 24 hours, we had this big bounce move, and a lot of volume came in. Is that whale buying, or is that amateurs, retailers buying? If that's whale buying, depends on what percentage of whales. Whales have a few whales, small whales have been buying a little bit around here, right? Dollar cost averaging, but majority of whales haven't been buying, and my guess is I need to check up on the blockchain data. My guess is that's retailer buying, not whales. And if that's not whales, it can bounce to 40, 45, 50. If I don't see whales buying, I will continue to call that as it is. A dead cat bounce, and we're going to the 20s. And if we do go into the 20s, which I think we will, many people then will lose heart. Even the most ardent bulls right now will panic and say, oh my God, we're in a bear market. Oh my God, I will be saying, no, we're still in a bull market and I'm buying in the 20s because we're going to see whales line up to buy here. That's my estimate.
So just because a price, we see like a 10%, 20% rise in Bitcoin, that doesn't necessarily change your thesis. What you need to do to change your thesis is to see an inflow of whale purchasing for Bitcoin. And then you think that'll be a primary indicator to show, okay, we're back in it. The fund's just beginning.
Yeah. I want to tell you why I don't think the whales, I need to check the blockchain data to confirm, but I'll tell you why I don't think is the whales buying in the last 24 hours. And it's just a hunch. It's just an intuition. It's not always correct, but there's good reason to this. And this is my analysis. So this is an hourly chart, right? So can we see all these high red bars of selling volume right here? Right. Usually if you get, this is a V-shaped recovery in Bitcoin in the last 24 hours. If this was whales buying, see that green bar, that massive green bar, that massive green volume, that buying volume would not occur here where it was just breaking through the yellow line. It would not be like here. Whales would not be waiting for 36.5. I need to check the blockchain to make sure of this. But my sentiment is whales do not care what price level it is. They do not care for the trend. They would just say, whales would be like, I'm placing my buy stops at 31,000, more at 30, more at 29, more at 28. They would just do that, like 1,000 Bitcoins here, purchase order. They would not say, wait for the retailers to push it up because we don't see much. Look at the green volume. It's not high. It's not high until you get to here. So that looks like the retailers buying. And then you think that's a massive amount of buying. Then you think the whales came in and said, oh, okay, I'm going to buy here after the retailers pick the bottom. That's just not whale behavior.
You think that they're going to be leading the market. They're not necessarily going to be following the market. The whales are going to catalyze the uptrend rather than the opposite, rather than retail.
More often than not, they are the bottom of the market.
Right.
If 30 is really the bottom, we're going to see this kind of volume
at the bottom
here. Right. Okay. Look, I'll just show you.
Yeah. No,
this is actually what happened.
That makes sense because you want to see a strong wick at the true bottom because you anticipate that the whale itself is gonna.
I have not changed the scale of this is still time frame. This is still the 1 hour chart, right here. Basically on the 1 hour chart, basically if you look at it, that was the day when it dropped to 30. Look how much buying there was. This was like massive volume. We have not seen volume like that since. Not only so, in 1 hour, it pushed the prices from negative 30 to what is that, like 38,000 or 37,000 in 1 hour. That's a massive move. When that happens, that's okay. That's a bottom for the next 20 days. We haven't seen, it's been 20 days since, 19 days since then. We have not seen a move below 30,000. That's credible. That's probably a little bit of whale buying, and even then it's not a lot.
So we're doing some chart analysis here, which has been awesome. Now, what I'm curious on, do you have any limit orders set in where you think, okay, this is where I'm going to buy?
Yeah, I do. So basically, it's on the phone that I have right now. So, but I've been on my during my live, I've been sharing that with everyone. I've basically set buy orders on just in case we're in a bear market. I'm 90% still thinking we're in a bull market. All my buy orders are set really low, thinking that we're going to go to the 20s. Basically, if we do get into the 20s, um, if we do get into the 20s, if Bitcoin gets into the 20s, then DOT, VET, Ethereum, they would accordingly also go much lower. Maybe lower than the bottom they made, the huge bottom they made on the May the 19th. Maybe not. So, but I've basically used dollar cost averaging to place my orders below the low of May 19th in 2 or 3 buy positions, and
So it's in the
just
20s,
in
ranged in the 20 range, like the buy orders.
for Bitcoin, if you were to correspond that to Bitcoin, that would be the 20s range. But for others, for other coins, for other cryptos, it would be like I'll just show it. For example, what we have here, like this is Ethereum, for example. Like for example, Ethereum is doing much better than Bitcoin. Right, let me just refresh that.
So okay, so the buy orders are in the 20 range. Now, one of the questions that I have kind of outside of really like the price point and everything is as a creator for on your end, because you do make nobody on TikTok saying, dead cat bounce, Bitcoin's going to the 20Ks and then it's going to continue the bear market. So, or bull market rather. So you are making, and you do have strong opinions that are kind of against traditional sentiment across the board. Now, my question for you
Yeah.
is, in the event that you are incorrect, right? As creators and me personally, I always try and almost hedge some of my predictions. In the event
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't do it, this dead cat bounce and go into the 20 range, and it just shoots right up. What are your plans as a creator and almost hedging that?
Uh, I've shown everyone, I've sold my positions in the 40s. I've
Mm-hmm.
gone short, and basically, if I miss that move, I've already missed that move myself.
Right.
I'm not basically here to con people into making a bad decision and for people to lose money. And I've lost that opportunity myself as well. So if you're angry, if that turns out to be the case, well, you should know that I've missed that bounce, that opportunity as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as I always said, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to bet your house on it. I've always said this is Pablo's gambling fund, right? I gamble with just less than 1%, easily less than 1% of my net worth on this. When it gets into the 20s, though, it can probably be. I'll probably put investment money into it. So then I'll probably call it Pablo's investment fund. That's when it comes out. If the thing is
So you still
it's
think
just
it's
overwhelming. It's just look. I can hedge my bets and say, oh look, it can go. If maybe 30 is the bottom, and maybe we can head higher from here.
right?
That's actually, to me, that's actually a more irresponsible thing for me to say, because then to me, if you feel that strongly about this, you should warn people. If you feel that strongly about, I guess I do feel pretty strongly about it. Many signs tell me this is happening. The more other creators are saying this is still a bull market. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying as well. The more others are saying 30 is the bottom, or Bitcoin's bouncing back, or Bitcoin's coming back. The more other creators say that, the more I'm willing to say that no, I think we're going down, because other TikTokers are not whales. In
Right.
fact, by definition, they are retailers and they represent retailer opinion. And they, more than that, they're under pressure to say popular opinion. Like, I mean, if that's the case, usually the whales, the smart money would act against that to be contrarian. The then I would say, yeah, it's going down. And for me not to say, I could be wrong.
And
I would say there's a 5% chance I could be wrong.
mhm.
But for me not to say it, and for my followers to actually
You
start
think it,
buying around 42, oh yeah, we're in a bull market move, then I would be like,
right?
that's actually really irresponsible, in
So
my opinion.
that goes back to your like previous how we were going through that. Oh, until we see whales really changing this sentiment of the market, the prediction will still be valid. And TikTokers, whatever they may be, by definition they are retail, so they don't have the power necessarily to swing the market. So when others are zigging, you're zagging.
particularly in a time like this. Look, what the Wyckoff, I think is it the Wyckoff or someone actually said this. Usually, what happens is I don't believe we're in a bear market. I think we're in a once in a century situation where we're going to do a double pump. Um, so, but if you believe the bear case guys, then they're thinking that they're saying that okay, after a Wyckoff distribution like this, when we come down here, we're still experiencing a phase psychologically called denial, the denial phase. Like I mean, dude, the long-term trend has been broken. It's been broken emphatically on strong fucking volume, the highest trading volume ever, to emphasize, yep, we're now boom in a downward trajectory. I'm the only one who's saying I'm not going to call that a bear move, a bear market. I still think we're in a bull market, and that's very unique. But however, it's many people are still in this denial phase of saying, "Oh, yep, it's diamond hands, buy the dip, guys, every time," and that's what we're seeing. That big move on the hourly chart that I showed a minute ago, that was people believing in diamond hands, believing in buy the dip, and believing Bitcoin's going to take off from here and all the way up to 80, 100,000, 300,000, whatever. We're all going to get rich together, generational wealth, all that sort of stuff. The more there are people out there saying that, believing in that, the more I'm willing to say thank you. The more I'm willing to say no, that's bet against that, because people saying that are not whales. People are saying that up in the 60s. Guess when the whales were selling? The whales were started selling here and sold more and more and more. And then they stopped selling here. They're waiting. I need to check the on-chain data to confirm. But so far, basically, from what we saw, how come, why, like, it just doesn't make sense. Why would the whales not be buying at 31,000 and came in? I'll show another chart, Austin. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is, if we look at this and pretend this is not a 1 hour chart, pretend this is a daily chart. Would the smart money not be buying here when it was so low, but there was so much selling, not buying, and then bought so much here when it was so high already, right? You know what this looks like? I'm going to show you another chart, and then you can see what I'm getting at. And this chart, I'll cover up the name, so don't look at the name of this chart first, and just look at the stock itself. Okay. When let me just pull it up on a larger.
Your ability to do this with it backwards is fairly impressive. I don't know what the chart would look like if I tried doing it.
Oh, backwards. I've had plenty of practice because people ask me.
Yeah.
So basically,
this is not your first rodeo.
Okay, so basically, look at this. I'm just going to show you guys. This is, come on. This is kind of what it's a rough, very silly comparison. This is a very, you will all recognize the chart when I tell you what it is. It's been all over the news, but see this is a little bit, this is a very silly comparison, but I think it has a point. See here, when it was low and it first started to make its move, some smart money got in, but not a lot. And it was up here, it was like going wild and crazy, right? Then there was so much buying volume. Do you think, let me ask you, would you call these people the whales who are buying like when it's that high? Would you call these people the whales? Like that's the kind of pattern. Okay, who are the whales? We see two big. Come on, Jesus. Let me just, because I have to hold this, cover up the.
You're doing a lot of things over here. You got a reverse.
Okay, see this? We have a massive green bar here. Right, compared to the previous trading volume here, because that's gone crazy, right? This part has gone crazy. Previously, basically, if we're just looking at by old day standards, it had a massive volume move up here, and that was actually a massive day. It only looks small now because this thing's gone through a massive move. The smart money was obviously buying then because there was a lot of volume here, right? And then as it got to this huge high place and then went sideways, just before that, so many people bought in. So many people, historically high trading volume. Can you guys guess what this chart is?
Is that, let me try. When is it consolidating to on the right side? It did not pump until about November, December?
Yeah.
Is it Ethereum?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys have guessed it. A lot of guys in my comments have guessed it. It's AMC.
AMC. Right? I was going to guess AMC, but I thought we were crypto.
Who are the smart money? Okay, this is that trading volume is the highest on the NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange. You know what that means? That's higher than Tesla trading volume when that was happening, like 4 days ago. And it was like 50. The average price of people buying there, the average price was 65 during these 2 days, right? And we see massive high volume. Does that strike you as whales, smart money, whales buying? Or does that one strike you as smart whales buying? Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. This is not waiting for a run up and then a massive green bar to buy is not whale behavior. So that's come back to a Bitcoin chart.
Now, we've been speaking a lot about whales and stuff, right? What are your thoughts in general about how whales have the ability to manipulate the market?
They have the ability to manipulate it at key moments. Basically, so for example, it's like this. We've seen this whale behavior from a couple of big whale wallets a number of times. In the last like 5 years, we've been watching this wallet. He basically has done 11 strikes on Bitcoin. Twice he's failed, but the other 9 times are something like 2 versus 9 or 2 versus 7. They don't always succeed. Because remember, he's got to use his own coins to smash the market down. And if the market is bullish, kind of like in the short term, kind of like in the last 24 hours, right, mm-hmm. like this, a whale coming in selling would only make the market go sideways. And then once he stops, the retailers would keep on pushing it up. He would lose money because he sold it at a lower place. He's this big guy who can, because this is not like Safe Moon where one guy owns like 98% of the supply. This is not Safe Moon. Just keep that in mind.
In Bitcoin is not Safe Moon, but for everyone listening.
But in Bitcoin, there are whales, but there's not one guy or not one group of guys who can decide the movement of prices on a whim. Like they can't just control it. Like say, yeah, it's going up, now it's going down. They still need wind in their sails. I would use that expression, wind in their sails, to help push them along. So basically, when Bitcoin prices were coming in to be, when there are bad news happening, or usually whales are quite well informed, like with government officials or whatever, like the Chinese whale, you didn't think if they're holding like $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, you don't think they would have bribed a few officials within the Chinese government to tell them, oh, by the way, news going to get released in 2 days, or in next 2 weeks, the government's going to really stamp down Bitcoins. They're like, oh, so bad news is coming, is it? Okay. Yeah. Then you see the wallets moving. You see on the blockchain those whale wallets mm-hmm. Moving from their cold wallet onto an exchange wallet. What does that mean? Why would you put like 5,000 Bitcoins onto an exchange wallet where it could get hacked? Of course you want to store it in your cold storage wallet. You guys have like 1 Bitcoin or less than 1 Bitcoin, and you want to store it in your cold storage wallet, right? Whales why would they store 5,000 Bitcoins, risk a hack on exchange wallet? They do that because they're ready to sell, right? The American expression I would use is, you do not put on a condom unless you're ready to, that's the same expression. They're putting on the condom, right? So basically they then wait for the FUD or the bad news to come out. China clamps down on Bitcoins, whatever. And, bad news when it comes to regulation, boom, sells the hell out of it. In that case, the market panics and it goes down to 30 like that, and they're like, "Yep." Mm-hmm. So they see bad news, really negative news coming out, and they see massive selling. The market just goes down with it, and they've made a lot of money, probably not just selling, but also probably shorting as well. And also they're happy because it means the market's so much lower now. I don't think 30 is the level they want to come in. I think somewhere in the 20s, probably lower 20s. Those whales got their buy orders ready to go.
So do you think having these whales having the ability to do this and somewhat manipulate these markets, do you think this is bad for crypto and Bitcoin as a whole?
It happens in every market. Like it's put it this way. In stocks, you can easily see the concentration of holdings because every large holder of a certain stock needs to be reported, and it's reported to the SEC. You can see who the largest institutional holders are. You can see who the largest private holders are. In Bitcoin, it's highly, highly concentrated. The Gini index for Bitcoin is worse than North Korea. Like North Korea has, because Kim Jong-il and his family essentially, and his cabal of cohorts run the whole country, so mm-hmm. it has high concentration of wealth. We all know that. But if you were to measure the concentration of coins in Bitcoin, if Bitcoin was a country, GDP of a country, wealth of a country, of a nation, the amount of Bitcoins the amount of, as measured by the Gini index, would be worse than North Korea. Like a few, like something like,
In
I don't know
terms
what
of
the
the
figure is, something like
concentration?
1%. 1% owns like 40% of the coins or whatever. So therefore, high concentration. So therefore, it's not a good thing. It would happen in any market, but there are certain stocks that are more evenly distributed than anything else. Like Apple, for example. Apple is quite thinly distributed. So even a big whale will only own 2%. The problem is a lot of those whales move in unison, like Bill Gates, his foundation, and some of those big hedge fund managers, they dine and wine and dine and go to the same yacht clubs together. They go to the same, golf clubs together. That's why Trump hangs out with at these golf clubs, because you could be speaking to another six whales in the one on the
Mm-hmm.
one golf course, off the 18th hole. And then you're always like, yeah, I'm thinking of selling. Yeah, you're thinking of selling as well. Yeah, okay. They don't make a coordinated plan, but they can feel each other out when they're bullshitting,
Right.
when they're not. And the next day in the market, six whales got out within the next 3 days. And then the market hears about it 2 weeks later because they have to follow their, what do you call it? There's a report where any institution sells a certain amount of shares, they have
Mm-hmm.
to they have to
So isn't that so in terms of
they have to
like I
report.
guess cross comparing whales from the traditional equity market to crypto, sure there is probably market manipulation in equities, but doesn't it concern you that these whales they're not necessarily accounted for in a sense that they don't have to listen to shareholders or they don't have to worry about these things. They can act effectively on their own.
Well, whales, even the share market, don't have to be accounted for. If they want to sell on bad news, they can sell on bad news. The thing is, however, they're gonna have a problem. They're gonna have a big problem explaining to the market, why did you sell 2 days before the bad news came out?
Right.
That's the part where they have to be accounted for. And some senators do that. Some senators, we've seen famous examples of this, of people sitting on the intelligence committee, whatever, from both sides, Democrats and Republicans, selling shares exactly like 2 days before bad news or
Yeah.
days before good news comes or whatever. It's kind of like, oh, that was uncanny. The one thing I will say about Bitcoin is that we've seen other stocks which have more concentrated holdings than Bitcoin, but like you say, there's no accountability. The other thing about Bitcoin and the crypto market is this: there, at least with Bitcoin, not with some of the DeFi coins. Some of the DeFi coins actually have good fundamentals. Like for example, the Bitcoin called DATA data shot up to something like 250% today, 2.5%, a 2.5x when the market is so down. Why? Because obviously some good news came out. So it does react to fundamentals, whether it's a bank adopting its technology, whatever the reason is shot up. So for example, something like Doge, for example, someone just asking, something like Bitcoin doesn't really have fundamentals. So Doge I would say, might have even less fundamentals than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is seen as the digital gold, but when whales manipulate and push the price down to 30,000 in 1 hour, in like a couple of hours, that could happen to Bitcoin in a flash crash, because there is nothing out there saying Bitcoin should not be trading at 30,000. Like we're debating so far about should Bitcoin be at 30,000 or should go to 20s. This conversation we're having right now would be crazy by any by the standards of any stock market or any equity. Because if we were talking about a stock going from 30 or at 20, we'd be like, dude, if it goes to 20, you do realize that that the dividend yield will be something like 6%. When you're getting like interest APY in a bank 0.2%, you can be getting 6% yield on Tesla. So if Tesla goes to this price, drops another 50% down to the 200s, from 300 down to 200, of course I'd be buying, right? It'd be crazy if we're talking any other investment like property. You'd be saying, wow, if property went from 300,000 down to 200,000, then the rental yield on that property would go from 3% to 5%. And it's within 20 minutes of the CBD of the downtown area. That's no brainer. I would take out all my savings out of Bitcoins, whatever, and dump it into that property. Of course I would do that. Like Bitcoin doesn't have those fundamentals. You try to talk about, what yield does Bitcoin generate? It doesn't. So therefore, is 30 a good area? Is 20 a good area? We're all looking at these charts and basically trying to draw.
Well,
It's like
I guess
astrology.
to your yield point, what about storing it on a third party custodial service that does actually pay you a 6% or a 3% yield?
I'm doubtful about that. Basically, yeah, those ones. How trustworthy are they? Like, you hear you hear about them getting hacks. I can certainly tell you this though: those whales that have like 5,000 bitcoins, they ain't storing on some custodial wallet and trying to earn like 20% or
Hmm.
30% yield or whatever because they don't trust that. The whale is bigger than the purse. Like he's saying, your staking liquidity pool, whatever you want to call it, your farm is only worth like your total assets only worth like about 100 million. I've got $1 billion of Bitcoin. I'm gonna store that on your
Right.
thing and trust you to pay me 5% yield.
Yeah,
What if you run off with
for
if you run
sure.
off that with that?
Yeah.
Who's lost? Who's won? So basically, like
I definitely, to your
that.
point, yeah, I don't necessarily think whales or people with large amount of holdings should be stored on these custodial service. But I guess in the comparison of equity versus crypto, you can generate a yield. But to your initial point, I think when you are looking at something like Bitcoin, which is like a new and disruptive technology, how do you truly evaluate it, right? Versus equities, there's actual ways to you own a portion of this company. So there are ways
Okay,
to evaluate
with
this company.
I'll give you an example. That's what I like to say.
Awesome, awesome. So that I've been watching your videos for a little bit now, and it's great to finally get to speak with you. I'm looking forward to hopping on some lives with you and just talking about Bitcoin, looking at the chart. And it was honestly getting your take has been great, and I look forward to watching the new movie that's coming out in 2 months. We couldn't get the title here today, but we will. We'll keep an eye out on that. Continuing to watch your content and seeing you continue to grow because it's been awesome.